Hello everybody, it's Friday night, it is Weekender time, and Terrain Fest is upon us in a big way. On this week's show, we've got a ton of stuff to get through, but before we get into that, we have a prize from Sarissa Precision to get you inspired and making some terrain for the festival that is October. To be in with a chance to win one of 3 £50 vouchers for Sarissa, you need to comment on this video on tabletop.com and put a link to your terrain project for Terrain Fest 2023. Got that? Make a project, put a link in the comments on this video on Tabletop, and then sit back and profit. Now, sit back and relax, because your weekend starts here. Hello everybody and welcome to the Weekender. I'm joined once again by Justin, Ben and Shay.
Hello.
To take you through a gentle hobby meander. We're all very gentle, calm. October's here. Terrain Fest started. Everything started. There's so much. We should probably show people what started.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's what TV's all about. Otherwise it would just be radio. So, first thing that has kicked off, we are into Shattergrounds. What's so funny about that? So, if you're an Infinity player, end song, thing of the past, we're now shattering all the ground as the O12 capital of Concilium is being absolutely overrun by people as they all attempt to get their hands on the alien tech that will prevent the QAZs from going completely nuclear all over the place. So if you've not seen the War Console site before, this is where they're currently playing. Each of these areas are a venue that you can put battle reports into. We have news from the front coming in from the roving reporter on the ground, including things like mission briefings for each of the areas as well, giving you the bluffer's guide to completing your mission in short order. So they're quite handy.
They're very handy.
Yeah. you two can pretend you know what you're doing in Infinity rather than just attempting to roll natural 20s all the time. By going in here and there's the complete breakdown of what the mission is, what's going on, mission tips for here's a good way to actually score points in them, and then how the
tags first,
how the special campaign rules will affect people. So because there's some of the areas are better for 0G or for aquatic or all-terrain. So when it comes to building your little Infinity Strike forces, you may want to go into specific ones. So here you see Nomads and Ilf. And there's Brad Pitt. Hi, Brad. So yes, we have the news from the front there. Help and how-to guides are for things like how do you sign up to this site? How do you submit battle reports? All of that good stuff. If you are unaware of any of this, then it's all in there. In the help and how to. Funny that.
It's the answer to everything that Mark Wahlberg ever asked. What?
Yes.
Who? Where am I? Who am I? Where am I going? Yeah.
That's true. My mind's defaulted to his role as a shooter, where it's just the most ridiculous sniper in the world ever. Yes. Anyway, we'll ignore that. It's a magnificent film.
Rose Belly, can we please get Mark Wahlberg as a mini, please?
Oh my God. Would he be Aleph? That would be interesting.
Aleph as a sniper. Yeah. But here are each of the zones, and as you can see, they've got lovely circles. The circles are who has submitted a battle report in that area, because they initially started 2 factions per, but you can put any of your reports in wherever you want. So you can see here it's still just Adriana and Pano fighting over the Orklinder processing hub. However, the main Rodan spaceport has gone completely ham. Everybody wants a piece of this. Yeah. As you can see, Combined Army, they started fairly well off there, and I think O12 were their main competitor, but it's just gone absolutely
Everybody
bazankers.
fighting for it.
Yeah, it kind of looks like O12 has just took a bit of a kicking.
Well, maybe they've just not been Johnny on the spot, got enough battle reports in, and everybody else has just sort of jumped in.
Mhm.
But if we have a look here, let's have a look at the trouble with Tuha, because everybody loves Tuha. Here's an example of a submitted battle report from an elf player, Aleph.
Blonde Baron. There you go.
So, bit of a blurb, what's going on, what's happened. They've written in a narrative style. Obviously, it's entirely up to you. When you come to do it, you can do a little photo montage and do a blow-by-blow sort of account.
Mhm.
But if we have a look at some of their gameplay pictures,
Ooh, pretty.
so they've been doing this via the medium of one of those online things, the tabletop simulators.
Very good.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how you play your game, as long as you play your game and submit your bat reps. That's
I like
fancy.
the lights on the car showing the
Yeah, in the dark. Well, of course they would. Otherwise, you'd crash into people as they run across the street in powered armor, shooting at people. So yeah, like I say, we are currently just in the initial days of phase 1. I say that actually, it's we're coming to the end of the first week. So there's 2 phases. The first one lasts for 12 days. Second one lasts for 11 days. Is that right? That's not right. 10 and 11. That makes more sense because it's 3 weeks total. So you've got a few more days to play around in phase 1 if you want to get into Infinity and help. Well, I'd say shape the universe, but mostly crater that planet. I think is
I think it's going to be a main way by the end of it.
Oh yeah.
But all those lovely buildings and all that rich architecture.
And then we all know who'll get the jobs for reconstruction. It's all backhanders, envelopes full of credits, space credits.
Just waiting to see a player base go rogue and just their only goal is to make the things blow up.
You do tend to get that in these kind of things.
It's one way of doing it, I suppose. One way of doing it. But Infinity is not all for October, the month thereof. As I've already mentioned, Terrain Fest. And if you paid attention to me in the intro, then you'll know Terrain Fest.
Did you pay attention to Jerry? That's the main thing.
Most people just skip that. That's why we put these things out live now on Premiere.
So you can't skip me.
That's when people get up and go to the bathroom, make a cup of tea or coffee.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, they know they've got 3 minutes to get back. It's like an advert in the old days.
Yeah, time for a tactical wee.
It's your brother shouting, "It's starting again!" And then you leap over the settee from another room. You don't want to miss it. Anyway, Terrain Fest. So throughout the month, we are going to be keeping a beady little eye on all you people as you put together bits and pieces of terrain for whatever you want, whatever from 3 mil to what was Inquisitor 70 mil skirmish,
54 mil,
54 mil could be, sure. It's been so long. Whatever one you want, whatever style you want, whatever genre you want, all we ask is that you get in there and do some training. Do it to the best of your ability. Be it scratch building, be it painting stuff up, be it slapping together logs that you've had sitting on your floor for years and going, well, now it's a cabin in the woods. You can do whatever you want. And as you can see, we've already people in here doing a plethora of terrain-based things.
And in different scales, which
the 6 mil Grand Armée Napoleonics is quite nice. The little whittled balsa wood buildings. They've all been whittled down from balsa. It's cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm stealing that 100% for the American Civil War. I was telling Shay earlier. Strange New Worlds, so alien forestries, gaslights, port backsand. You can see a variety there. Do you want to see any while we're here?
There was a port one further up that looked intriguing.
Port
on the left-hand side.
I don't know if there's anything in Port.
No, further up it was.
Oh, right.
There it is.
Different port.
Ooh.
Port San Ecla.
To go with Blood and Plunder.
Yeah, this is part of Bob's Tales of the Fluffy Bunny, Blood and Plunder, which is a thing that needs to be seen to be believed because he's built multiple ships from a whole host of people. Including a massive galleon that he said it's just too big. He wins every time. He's going, but do you have enough sailors on board to fire all those guns, Bob? I don't think you do.
But he's able to do it salvo style. Just fire one, run to the next, don't reload.
That's true. You just keep on going.
One cannon a turn.
So there we have a little
That's nice.
American fort
Lovely.
laid out on his table.
Yeah.
And this is the sort of, well, this isn't even all you can do with the project system. If you've not used it before, you can embed videos and stuff as well. So if you've got a YouTube,
All sorts of things.
Like what the kids have, then you can add extra. I like how Bob here has done a variety of different kits. I mean, that looks like old school resin besides more modern card or MDF. I think that's one of the old cardstock ones. I do like
the hack stuff he's using to actually lay out his main battlefield.
It's Callisto's hex system.
It's very nice.
I love it to bits. And at some point, I will have enough money to get it myself and somewhere to store it as well. Look at all his jungleism. Oh, I love the big banyan tree. Look at that big swamp beast thing. Anyway, so yes, you can go nuts. You can be as super detailed as you want, or you can just go, here's the finished results. As you sort of get them done. It's entirely up to you. We have no judging parameters. Yes, we'll create those over the course of the month, and then we'll get to the end and go, yeah, this won because we chose it.
Yeah. Surely we'll go rule of cool.
Oh yeah, it's mostly whatever Jerry and I probably decide is the coolest thing. So yeah.
So hang on, I'm not on the panel. I can't pick my project to win. Damn it.
No.
100% no.
I only have to build my table again.
Maybe we'll give you an honourable mention. There you go.
Nah, that'll be fine.
Multi-award-winning Moonstone or Burrows and Badgers, then I think is probably
that's probably where it's going to go.
Probably key. Or if you want to get us both on board, Saga.
Oh yeah.
Do something Beowulfy and Dark Agey, and you may be in with a chance. Anyway, we are right at the start of the month, so you've got another 4 weeks to put stuff together.
Loads of time.
Don't worry, it will not come down to 100% finished project. We don't need to see that little complete tab. If you've still got work to do or things to add or whatever at the end of the month, that doesn't rule you out from winning. We're very generous in that regards.
Yeah,
because I know myself, chances of me finishing anything are slim to none.
Well, I mean, I have to finish because I've got the vlog series going, and people will shout at me and beat me with a bag of satsumas if I don't finish.
Oh, yes.
That's the way it goes. That's our punishment system.
100% correct.
Discipline is kind and gentle.
Yes. And sweet.
So, we're going to have a look at, technically, it's our Indie of the Week. It's a bit of a revamp because Sarissa Precision kindly threw out some prizes to us. So, considering it is the month of Terrain Fest, and they decided to give us some prizes for Terrain Fest, we thought it would be a great time to have a look at what exactly you can get from Sarissa in the Indie of the Week. Redux. Not the only Redux you'll see on the show. So, people will probably be aware that Sarissa do a whole slew of MDF terrain. We've been here before. We've looked at it before. You can see 4028 2015. I remember when I first got Sarissa, and it wasn't this website, it was the original .co.uk, and all they sold was movement trays and bases.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's where I first came across them. Oh my, how they've grown.
Yeah.
It's been so beautiful watching them grow up over the years. Anyway, yeah, you can get in and you can grab bits and pieces that will fit whatever game you're playing, whether it's a large scale thing. So 40 mil would obviously be perfect for Marvel Crisis Protocol. It's that ridiculous size. Yeah. Well, that's true, yeah, because Batman is theoretically
35,
30 something. Yeah.
You need to be painting that a lot darker, grimmer.
Oh, yeah, just empty a pot of shade over it.
No, you still paint it like this, but you just play with the lights out.
Oh, that's true.
So hang on, you want to do it like the Clooney one? Just put some UV paint over everything as well?
That'd be cool.
That would work. Well, to be fair, the way Batman works is it's all based on everything's in dark because it's always at night, and there are street lights And you only get bonuses if you're actually lit by something. So you could just have some little LED tea light stuck on things, just barely illuminating the board.
That could be interesting.
And then the rest of the time is just spent knocking into stuff, swearing, and then putting the lights on so you can pick up your tower again.
I do like that it's not just the buildings we're seeing here, because if you are playing Marvel Crisis Protocol, you can pick stuff up and throw it at each other. So having those ancillary bits that are in a similar style, really nice to have.
Yeah, I mean, beating somebody to death with the armored truck is a great way of doing it.
Yeah, Hulk smash.
Hulk smash, yeah.
Hulk doesn't
why
smash.
Why are there two Doc Ocks in this picture?
Same reason there are two Ultrons in that picture, because these are multiple pictures put together.
Multiverse.
Yeah, it's multiverse.
Yeah, fair. We are getting into that.
That is the bundle. Anyway, so yeah, they do a terrific range of a whole host of buildings at various scales. We know that. We've been here. We love that. What we didn't really look at last time, and what I want to have a look at today, are there sort of ancillary bits and pieces. So Sarissa do a lot of other things to help you when you're doing your terrain, including the likes of their stenciling systems.
Oh, nice.
We'll see these in a bit more detail in a little while in another product they do. But I know some people look at these and think, well, what am I going to use those for? Or they're good for doing sides of buildings or doing specific things, but I don't have an airbrush or I don't have an X. Well, I've seen them being used with a brush, but one of the most impressive things I've seen was actually in our project system by Pete. And Pete had got his hands on a set of brick and stone stencils, things like this. Mm-hmm. And then he took the MDF building that he was putting together, which was like a farmhouse or a cottage, put this over the top, and then used pre-mixed plaster, so polyfiller, spackle if you're in the US, that sort of thing, pushed it across, and then peeled the stencil off. And the stencils are a hard-wearing plasticky laminar thing, which means you can clean them very easily. You just wet them down, scrub them off, but it left raised stone texture on nice. MDF.
Very cool.
That is a example of using these stencils, which I think is absolutely spot on, because yes, you can just go for the simple, I'll stick it up alongside it and spray it or brush it or sponge it, whatever, to get the pattern, but actually using it to get a raised texture of brickwork and of stonework.
That's cool.
Was really, really nice.
Yeah, now you're thinking with portals.
That type of thing, because they do have, obviously, a large variety from sci-fi and industrial, hazard markings, road markings, which is perfect for if you've got various types of road typey things to lay down. However, another thing they're absolutely cracking for is, and I've done this on my Bot War miniatures, is painting road markings on the bases so that you have the sense of scale of what they're on. So, a very simple way. Most plastic bases come with that texture on them.
Yeah.
Give it a quick black wash over a grey dry brush, and then stencil on some road markings, tarmac. And all of a sudden you've got tarmac, and it's taken you no time at all to do it. And that is a lazy thing to do, and I love it to bits.
I was also thinking, you're saying about using that stencil on the wall of a building, but similarly to what you're saying here with basing, use it for making bases as well. Yes. As long as it's deep enough, that's...
Well, I mean, if it doesn't matter. If you use the spackle,
you get the very small rise. That's all you need. Yeah.
If you use the spackle for some of those manhole covers, I think you could get something very, very cool looking.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
And you don't want it to be too heavily modular.
No,
because then your model's going to balance or teeter-tot on the top of them in an unusual way. So
how nifty is that?
I mean, 100%. I'm stealing it, and that was my idea. You all heard me say it was my idea first.
Copyright Jerry 2023.
Don't worry about Pete. He didn't do it. Wasn't him. And obviously there's a whole variety of actual real stencil type stencils.
Really cool.
Which are a really neat way of branding buildings, especially if you've got a load of their Old West stuff. So you can, write Barber Surgeon or Saloon or whatever on the front of the building.
Yeah. Or if you're doing something like a military encampment, figure out some of their acronyms. So, mark out your mess hall and stuff.
Yeah.
Just write "Go away" in big white letters inside the wall.
No soldiers here, promise.
Promise. You leave now. Bye-bye.
See, I'd love to see more of those lettered ones in like more different types of fonts, because I think you could also do like some cool graffiti stuff with them.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they will. Another thing they do is wallpaper, and also Sarissa have a variety of tutorials about their kits on their YouTube channel via the medium of March Attack, showing how they get used. And these are, again, a really simple but effective way of adding additional detail, especially on MDF kits that have, grain or flat surfaces. So you might get some brickwork on the outside, but the interior doesn't have much. And you go, well, what am I going to do with the interior? Well, what if I instead decide to throw down some wallpaper and a couple of carpets? In fact, I think it shows the carpets in this one quite nicely. If I go to there. So, go ahead, he's glued the carpeting down the stairs as well, which is a sign of madness. But you just lay them out because you know that a dividing wall is going to go in there, and you know the outside wall, so you don't have to be hugely neat. He also goes into what grade of paper he's using. I think it's like an 80 gram paper, so it's relatively thin, but you can, just buy the cheapest paper you can out of your local big supermarket, Tesco's, Lidl's, whatever it happens to be, and you'll discover that it's probably 80 gram or less anyway. You don't want quality paper because quality paper's thick. Unless you're doing something specific, like maybe a throw rug. You should make some nice throw rugs, do some tasseling with a little pair of snips.
The other thing as well, because it's quite thin, if you're trying to make a distressed building as well, you can peel it back once you've got it on, so it'll look like it's been through the walls.
Oh yeah, just been through the walls. But yeah, goes into a lot of detail about actually. Most of us would just go stick it down and then just go cut, and then you end up with like big bits in the corner and stuff. So the explanation of how you even cut it out, make sure that every time you're cutting from a corner, not into a corner, and then go in with like an emery board or a file and just buff away the excess to hide it. It gives a really, really nice effect. Look at those awesome wallpapers. Wallpapering houses. I did this once for 15 mil years ago, and it was a pain in the backside to find wallpaper. I'm just saying. What was that? Second edition Flames of War, so 10 years, 12 years ago.
Something along those lines.
Trying to find 15 mil wallpaper or patterns that would look like wallpaper to put on the inside of a house was a pain in the backside. Anyway, so they've now done it, which means you can lay your hands on a whole slew of different digital packs. And every now and again, you'll see in here, there we go, there's one, little free packs. So free Roman mosaic, the paper signs for your Wild West buildings.
Well, that's just awesome.
Likey.
The mosaic ones are quite fun. And I'll tell you what I did with these myself, because I am, awesome like this. I did a jerry can ages ago about doing Ripley flags, putting a PDF or an image into something like Photoshop or Photopea, which is the free version that you can do in your browser, and then adding ripples to make it look like the cloth was bending. Well, I did exactly the same thing with these, except I got pictures of speculative light on water, and then it rippled the tiling, and then I cut them out and put them in the bottom of little pools and fountains, and then just put a layer of gel over the top.
Nice.
So it looked like the water's reflecting the light across the bottom of the pool. I'm just saying, it looked great.
Nice.
Again, you'll never see those because I have no idea where I put them. They were in a box with a lot of Gangs of Rome stuff, which Lloyd is still refusing to build for me, by the way. People at home, you should really put that in the comments.
I've seen some lovely aspirational photos on the Sarissa homepage. It's just, you need to get him looking at that, really.
Yeah.
But again, even with the Wild West signage you have there, putting that onto like the side of even modern buildings and distressing it could look very good.
He could be building all of this for me.
Yeah. Oh, it's so pretty.
And yet he's not built any of it. He's not built one. I've built more than he has. This is not rich.
How much do you own?
A lot.
Asking for a friend.
Quite a bit of it.
All right.
When they were releasing Gangs of Rome, they went, we'll sell you Rome for like 400 or 500 quid. And I went, yeah, just send me that then, please.
Shut up and take my money.
And then
I'm just saying, Justin knows how to build MDF terrain really well. Maybe you should get Justin.
Silent your Ford!
Doing it.
But yeah. Within the rest of the sort of the range, then they also have tiling packs. So it's just things that you can do a little bit of extra detailing with, just to nudge your buildings up the next step. And if you're building a lot of scratch terrain, as I'm often want to do, sometimes you can build quite a lot out of foam core and balsa wood, and then just use things like this to push them as if it looks like it's been a block kit. Then so you're taking some of the stress out, and I'm not having to cut individual shingles out. Yeah,
avoiding the tedium of cutting roof tiles.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than having to cut a million shingles.
Yeah. But no, this is a cool idea for giving your HDF buildings a bit of a glow up.
100%. And speaking of, the other thing I want to draw people's attention to is the Guide to Making and Painting Laser Cut MDF Model Kits, TM.
Very handy.
Which, I mean, if a company's going to do something book-wise, then, definitely stay in your lane. And they've just gone, what do we do? MDF kits. What do we want to do with them? Paint them. Okay, let's put that together. Now, as a weird coincidence, for the entire month of October, which is when that Terrain Fest thing, what we are running is running, they're actually running this at half price. So you can pick up the PDF for a tenner. And I think you can pick up the book and PDF for the regular $18.99
cool.
Together. So that's throughout all of October. Nothing to do with us, but I'm claiming it because we're doing Terrain Fest, and that's handy for terrain. So, bingo bongo, you put those things together, and what have you got? Us. That's what you have. And to give you a rough idea of what is in there, by rough, I mean not that rough. I've got a copy.
Sneaky peek.
Yeah. So right off the bat, I particularly I'm starting with the forward, and I know most people skip these, but this speaks to the people behind Sarissa, and I just love it to bits because I have a sneaking suspicion we're of a similar breed and age. So when he was young and only 1 meter tall, museum and model shops were wonderful places. But as you get older and get further away from that feeling by getting taller, it's all about the same height as the TV. It was a bit of a dull affair until Captain Scarlet and Thunderbirds came on. So the writing style in and of itself is a very tongue-in-cheek and a bit of a delight just to read through where they were coming from and how they got there. However, get there they did, and in a big way. So after our forward, they go into some fantastic detail about things. So this book is 130 odd pages long.
Wow. Okay.
So it doesn't skimp. And I know sometimes people, especially if all they've been working on is plastic, a lot of the new generation of gamers have come in via the medium of things like Games Workshop, where every kit is plastic, miniatures are plastic, buildings are plastic, trees are plastic these days. It just all is. And then they suddenly branch out into other things and then come across resin and metal and MDF. And there's the fear. This will take the fear and kick it squarely in the nuts. So it goes through everything that you may need, may want, don't really need, might be handy, from glues up. So what the glues are, how they work, which are best, various tools that you may want to get your hands on, how you can use them, all the different types of paints, applications and sprays, and even
talking about pens for making sure you can line things when you need to get rid of the wood.
I do remember I did have a youngster in the store one day turning to me and saying, yeah, I bought some metal miniatures, but my glue's not sticking it together. And I was like, what glue are you using? This? And he held up a pot of plastic cement, and it's just like,
yeah, if they don't know any better.
Oh, I know.
Because it doesn't say plastic cement or plastic glue, it just says glue from GW these days. They took all the other names away, so it's not to confuse people.
Look tight, lad.
Yeah. But yeah, after that, I mean, like I say, there's a whole slew of stuff here, from two basic guides, one painting it all with a brush, one painting it all with sprays, and then after that you can get into some more not complicated but
slightly more technical
stuff that's broken down in a variety of ways, like how to do planks, how to do different effects. That might be handy for somebody who's painting a load of Wild West stuff in the not too distant future. Don't know who that could be, and it could be anyone at all who wants to paint some Wild West buildings who got a lot of planks on them. So I mean, it's great. If we skip on, like I said, we would revisit this and have a look at stencils. So we're not going to go through the whole thing, but here they have a text section on using their stencils, and these are, like I say, this is how you would expect to use them. If you've got an airbrush, smashing. If you don't, you can do the Lord's own work via the medium of masking tape and a big brush with lots of bristles. You can get a similar effect. Like I say, or use pre-mixed polyfiller. Bish bash bosh. TM Jerry. Of course it was me. And things like, they may say it in here about the posters, but if they don't, I'll give you this little tip for free now. When you've cut out and glued on a load of posters that you've got, if you want to make them look aged, you can either go in with a little bit of like a very fine sandpaper, or when you've got like a label on something and you wet it and you rub it and it sort of starts to ball up, do that around the edges and it looks like it's sort of wearing into the brickwork.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
Just so it looks less set on and more an actual poster that's been stuck there. So either of those work, either sand or wet and scrub. Just be aware that you will, obviously, if you do it too roughly, you'll get into the underlying
you will
paint.
Destroy your poster.
Yeah. Well, I'm not worried about destroying poster, but I'd be more worried about having to repaint the stuff beneath it.
Well, that's true as well.
And then even things like breakages. And this happens to the best of us. In the best will in the world, occasionally you start cutting all the little sprue gates away on your MDF, and then after a while you go, you know what, though? I think I just push these out. Push.
And test it.
And then something snaps. And you go,
Or you go, that's not a sprue gate. That's just, that was a sprue gate. Oh, no, wait, actually it was part of the train.
Yeah.
The one for me is the door hinges you see on a lot of kits with the little hole, and it's got like less than a millimeter of wood holding the outside of the circle on the long edge, and it's just like, dink, damn it.
So I like that this has been included. I mean, it is at the end of the day very thin wood. It's not impervious to man's inhumanity to man and wood.
Our big sausage fingers.
So actually having a little guide in there going really simple, glue it, align it, use tape to align it, and then clamp it in place like a splint, and then just walk away, come back whenever it's dry. PVA will do the Lord's own work to fix that for you, rectify that problem.
Very cool.
I think this is an absolute stunker of a book, and I was completely unaware that they'd done it. I knew about that because I follow the YouTube channel, and I lurk anyway around Sarissa to see what they're up to, because what else am I going to do with my time? But at some point they released this book, and I completely blanked on it, and I don't know how that happened, but I felt it worthwhile showing it to you today. And I mean, if you win one of those vouchers, you could get the book for only a tenner by Grabthor's Hammer Water Savings and still have 40 quid left over to spend on stencils and paper and stuff.
So what I need to do is I need to make a separate account, and I need to comment.
No smurfing it, Dan.
Comment on Tabletop, and then I can make my Wild West dreams come to life. Yay.
It's good to have a plan. Let's see how that works out for you.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of Wild West, I think it's time for the news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
All right, we are back with some news, and I told you, Ben, that we'd be looking at some Wild West stuff.
Yay.
Great Escape Games.
Oh my god, yes. This
creators of Dead Man's Hand have announced an upcoming Kickstarter. I believe for the end of October, as Dead Man's Hand Redux is coming to town. So, for those unaware, Dead Man's Hand is a skirmish game set in the Old West, and it's very much film themed. So you play multiple scenarios to complete a game, and you play them one after the other, and it goes like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Act 3 is the big climax, and depending on what you're playing, you may have a couple of models for the first scenario and maybe 3 or 4 for the second, and then finish off with a big full-on gang fight. Dead Man's Hand's been running now since 2013, so 10 years on. They've decided to go back and have a look at it for a few reasons. They've decided to go with Redux to keep that movie feel in the air, which makes a lot of sense. And if you already play Dead Man's Hand, it's not a massive sea change. It's sort of a tweak. Erratas and FAQs have been folded in. Things are being a little bit more streamlined, and the cards that the game plays with are getting a bit of a revamp. So most will stay the same, but there are some that were so situational that they never really got used.
Right.
A prime example being Dust in Your Eye, that removed somebody's aiming. Now Dust in Your Eye just removes the shot altogether, meaning you're much more likely to use that card, because of people, especially if your opponent happens to guess that you've got it, then they just don't aim. So, losing a +1 modifier on a D20 roll, not really great in the grand scheme of things. But losing a whole shot, well, that's a bit more telling now.
Yeah, it's a bit more ouchy.
It's just little things like that. There's talk that they will be going in and doing some tweaks to some of the gangs. So all the gangs work on a similar format. You've got your boss, then there's a gun hand who's your best fighter, and then you've got the sort of the gangers, and then the lowest level of chaff at the bottom. So there's going to be a few new rules added to some of the gangs, but not all. So maybe you might see some sort of dynamite expert creeping into the banditos or things like that, just to mix it up a bit. So the plan behind this is, come October, they will run a Kickstarter to get the new starter set Dead Man's Hand out there. It will come with 3 buildings.
Nice.
These buildings are plastic. So they already do a plastic wagon, which is great. They do plastic gunfighters 1 and 2, cowboys, cowgirls. The plan is to add, I think, another 11 kits, they said, over the next few years.
Wow.
And those kits will be anything from new plastic gangs to buildings or other things. So maybe I'll get my plastic cacti. Maybe. I don't know. But you can see here, this is one kit made 3 times. And if we have a look, the kits themselves look very robust with nice, fairly chunky details, similar to the wagon. So you can just throw a wash on and dry brush the living Jesus out of it, and it's done. The internal wall there sort of moves around, so you can make that space as big or as narrow as you want. Leave it out altogether, and then maybe use 2 walls in another one of the buildings. Because through the Kickstarter, like I say, 20 models in the box along with 3 buildings is what they're starting with. Depending on how they go, that may change. There's talk that one of the sprues of gunfighters will be a new sprue. So we'll have to wait and see who that is going to be. The duck boards come on the sprue as well, so I'm not sure how many, if that's all the duck boards from all 3 sprues together to do a whole thing, or if there's enough to do around a building. If there's enough to do around a building for one kit, that would be insanely good value. But as you can see, things like the duck boards are separate. The awning / porch is separate, along with the stanchions there. So you can have it with or without, which just allows a lot of variability.
That's a really great idea. Yeah.
Battle
I
Bunker,
would hope to see them do like a second story in these as well.
Well, Battle Bunker HQ sat down and had a sort of a live stream last week, which is the bottom of the article. If people aren't subscribed to Battle Bunker, you can go and have a look at that, because they go into a lot more detail about their plans, and they also show that kit off, and that kit is stackable.
Excellent.
As is.
Right.
So you've got 3, which means you could have a little 2-story risen one. Now you will have a second door at the back if you're just building them as flat models to begin with, which means you may want to build a little set of stairs out of balsa wood. You can see how to do that in that book.
Or like a ladder.
We'll put a ladder there, like an escape hatch. But so the where are we? It's that one. So you can see there are like key junctions here at the corners.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And the base has the reverse. So you've got like a mortise and tenon to lock them together when you do stack them.
Nicely. Yeah.
So this sounds very exciting for the old Great Escape games.
Yes, doodly.
Not just the fact that they're going back and redoing it. So currently, if you want to buy everything for Dead Man's Hand, then you pick up the rules, which has got the card deck and the first 4 gangs. Then you need to get Curse of Dead Man's Hand. It's got the face cards plus a bunch of gangs. Then there's Down Under, if you want to go Australian. Then you want to get Legends, which has more gangs and more face cards. And then some of the boxes they sell have the individual rules and face cards in them. So it was getting a bit everywhere. So what they're doing is, first book will have the sort of the core lawmen, cowboys, gangs, and the cards. It will be in the box set with the buildings and the plastics. And then they're going to be doing 2 supplemental books. They're not going to come out at the same time. There'll be Wave 2 and Wave 3. The Good is the first book, which will contain like 13 gangs, including some new ones, because they're adding stuff like Buffalo Soldiers in. And they're even adding a group called the Family, some sort of religious lunatic Christians moseying around the Old West, screaming hellfire and you can't leave the cult type of things.
I drank the Kool-Aid.
And they're going to be in the second book, which is called The Bad and the Ugly. Along with some factions that you might not expect. So the Pinkerton Detectives are going to be in that, which, if you look and you're going, well, lawmen and cowboys and all the rest are in the Good book, why are they in there? It's because of the theme of Dead Man's Hand being very much based on the films. Cousin Pale Rider, Marshal Stockburn and his deputies are hired by whoever's got the most money to enforce whatever law they want. And so they come in. So even though, and the Pinkerton models are based on them, so I'm assuming that's why they're pushed into the bad book, because they're essentially guns for hire. The law is whatever their bullet says the law is. But people who back the Kickstarter will be able to help shape what's going to go into the box and sort of the plans for the way things are going to go whenever it, obviously hits retail. But there's a very short turnaround time because they're already working on the tooling and design for a lot of the stuff. So October end of for Kickstarter, March, April for delivery.
Oh, wow. Very speedy.
Yes. So if you fancy going the old pew, 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 pew.
I mean, I would love to be able to play this with the Hatfields and the McCoys.
I mean, there's no reason why you can't. All you need to do is pick 2 Bandido, Desperado, Cowboy factions, whatever one you think fits best for them, and then just go to town. Because I believe there's going to be a baked-in campaign system in the rules, which was nice. The campaign system was in Legends. Yeah, Legends. So it's going to be in there at the get-go. But yeah,
tempting, very tempting.
Oh yeah, if you fancy playing some Old West, it's probably it is my go-to.
Considering I'm looking at my lawmen right now on my painted table getting painted, I'm like, this sounds good.
Yeah. Ben, why haven't you painted us, Ben? We're sitting here right here, Ben. Why haven't you painted us?
The bandits first.
Shame. Anyway, yeah. So keep your eye out, and like I say, there's a ton of more information in that live stream from Battle Bunker HQ. So if you're keen to find out more, including a lot of spoilers being dropped about all sorts of things that it probably shouldn't have been dropping, including the Chicago way for the gangster stuff as well. Then you can check that out too.
Lots of fun stuff coming there.
Lots of fun. All right. Life on the Ocean Waves, Ben.
Yeah, so moving from the Wild West to a dystopian age, we're looking at a new massive starter set coming out for Dystopian Wars later this month, towards the end of October. So this is going to be a new set for you to dive into that allows you to play as either the Union or the Sultanate in your games of Dystopian Wars. Comes with new ships and all sorts of fantastic extra bits and pieces to get you going in the game, which is very cool. So as I say, great starter set for you to get started. Mixes together the sort of aerial stuff with some of the naval bits and pieces. So you have quite a lot of flyers, as you can see in there, but then you also have your traditional ships as well. On the side of the Union, they're going to be getting themselves the very airship looking Excelsior heavy air cruiser, which is very nice.
Excelsior.
That's the one on the left there. And on the other side of things, the Sultanate to get themselves the Lyceum class aerial dreadnought, which looks like something that has been crafted by
Didn't I see that in Stargate?
maybe. Yeah.
That looks like they've went to Antarctica and been doing some nasty stealings from the Enlightened.
Well,
Jerry, you should be outraged.
It was actually gifted by the Covenant, which is quite nice, I suppose. So rather than it being stolen, I suppose at least it was given as a lovely present. And there's quite a few of them apparently that now float around as part of the Sultanate collection. But this is going to give you all the bits and pieces that you need for getting started as either of these two factions in the game. So they come effectively battle ready for you to play out of the box, which is always good to see. The other thing that's quite nice about these is that they've made them mercenary factions as well. So you can dive in, and obviously they have these keywords of the Union and the Sultanate there. But if you wanted to then go off in different directions with your fleet of choice, so maybe, for example, you were drawn by, playing around as the British or whatever like that, or you wanted to go off in a different direction, maybe you wanted to do the Covenant of Antarctica, then you can sort of bolt these onto those forces and use them as additions to that, which I think is quite nice. The other thing that they've done with this, and it's something that I like seeing in the various sets that War Cradle have done for Dystopian Wars, is that they've got this nice little sort of Fortune and Glory style campaign built into the box. So you play through that and you play through the storyline, which I think is quite nice. And that's where you've got all the extra bits and pieces in there. So you've got all the objective markers and cargo and stuff to go on land. And
I was just looking at this, the little
dune crawlers.
Dune crawlers, yeah.
Yeah, so
I wasn't sure if that was water or sand for a good minute there.
Oh no, definitely sandy sand.
So they're bringing in some nice little elements there for sort of, boarding
nice
actions and landing and all that kind of thing, which I think is quite nice. So, and taking of different things on land stuff. So
it's interesting that this is having you have both land, air, and sea all baked into the one starter set.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It'll be very interesting to see where they go from here, obviously, when it comes to new stuff. But, War Cradle are always bringing out fun and interesting new expansion packs and things for the various.
Just looks like a flying bomb.
It does look like a flying bomb.
Well, if you look on the very top there, the command deck, that looks like that could separate and become your escape hatch or your escape pod. Whenever you just go, we're out of ammo. Just crash the thing. We'll take the escape pod. We're grand.
Or you just sit slim pickings there.
I was going to say yes. Yeah. Tilt it downwards and away you go.
Good times.
Yeah. So this is the new set. As I say, Fortune and Glory, that allows you to dive in and get everything. You've got the rule book and everything in there. You get all your cards, you get all your dice, you get your tokens, you get your measuring sticks, everything you need to start playing the game, which is always nice to see. On top of the starter set, which comes with all that goodness in there, there's also a couple of additional sets that they're going to be bringing out. So one of these is a new terrain set, which is the icebergs and glaciers one. So they'll be looking to make things a little bit more dangerous on the tabletop. We know what happened to Titanic. Then throw these into the mix. Obviously, you could just fly over these, I suppose. But if you are in a ship, if you are in a ship, beware. I guess maybe an automaton could just smash them, I suppose. But,
if we end up getting that set on the tabletop, Jerry, sorry mate, I'm taking the Union.
Oh, well, there we go. You're going to have to play as the Sultanate then, Jerry, I suppose.
I've painted a mountain of crown.
Oh.
I'll play the crown.
Bolt them on. There we go.
But I'll teach you, bloody rebels.
Yeah. So there's the terrain set there for people who want to play in sort of colder climes. And then if you want to go off in a different direction as well, and you want to bring in the Nordic flavor of things, and there's also the Scandinavian Sports Squadron at the same time as well. So quite a few big bits and pieces coming out for Dystopian Wars at the end of the month. As I say, if you've not dived into Dystopian Wars in the past, it's a pretty good reason to do that. So,
I hate the torpedoes.
I'd say, they're very simple things like the little island set, but when you're playing a naval engagement, just having impediments in your way change things massively. Either having to work out where you're going to deploy your fleet or how to get around them, especially if your opponent has a lot of flyers or something where they can just ignore them. I think the submersibles can then just dive under,
dive,
and ignore, which they can't do with the islands, I believe. So
they do tend to go all the way down.
They do go all the way down. It's one of my earliest memories asking questions for looking at the weather report. Was
Do
asking,
islands float?
It's just like that at the top.
If you watched this morning, then you'd be forgiven for saying that they did, because that guy ran around on those floats all the time and everything was moving around all over the place.
That was true.
Yeah,
leaping from
yeah.
Scotland
and he only
to
fell
Northern
in
Ireland.
once.
Yep.
So
I mean, that was always good, clean family fun. 'Cause most people were just tuning in to see whether or not he fell over. So
that's true. Yeah. So many people are not going to have any clue what we're talking about, but there we go.
It's all right. There is YouTube now, and I'm sure there's a clip of it there somewhere. Go hunting. Good hunting.
I imagine there will be. Right. News out of Osprey for fans of Undaunted. We've had Normandy. So we've done Western Europe. We've had Stalingrad. We've had Eastern Europe. Had North Africa, Europe. And then we went Battle of Britain, Fly Europe. So I think everybody was expecting Pacific next. And then Osprey went, curveball. We're going to Jupiter's moon, off to Jovian.
Exactly.
So Undaunted 2022 has been announced, reuniting Dave Thompson, Trevor Benjamin, and Roland McDonald, the illustrator, and you're going to be jumping around on the fourth moon of Jupiter in Callisto as you attempt to stake a claim for the mineral-rich resources on Callisto. So Mechs and rumbly things with Rockhound on top, screaming that he doesn't want to go home because he owes the mob quite a lot of money. I imagine that's pretty much going to be in there. So don't know about any new mechanics yet, but considering how they've always explored the mechanics rather than just go for straight reskins every time, they've always done something different, whether it was dropping down to individual men in North Africa for more close squad-based thing, or adding the campaign system for Stalingrad. They always iterate rather than just go with a more generic, here's the same game multiple times, different sort of feelings. So I imagine we'll get something, whether they're working on the principle of zero-G or the type of weaponry, or I'm not sure what.
I was thinking low gravity, or maybe something close in on the mecha.
Because it's slightly bigger than the moon. It is a moon, but slightly bigger than our moon. I'll put it like that. That's better. It's bigger than our moon, so the gravity is going to be low. Mecha could be interesting because with North Africa, obviously they had different piloting positions within one vehicle. Maybe something a bit more in-depth vehicle-based could be the way they go with this one.
Well, perhaps you could do something with like modular loadouts. So as you're playing through the game, you maybe hit a loadout station, get to tool out your weapons, change them out for something more appropriate to your current situation.
Yeah. Cool. It'll be fascinating to see what they do. And the whole time I'll be thinking of Outland with Sean Connery, dealing with striking miners.
Good way to go.
Yeah. Yep. It's the only way to go. That's how you deal with striking miners. You deal with them. So, announced this week, obviously Osprey Essence. We may see more information come out either after the weekend or early next week. But it's due early next year, I believe, 2024, early release. So yes, fascinating to see where they go and exactly what they do up there on Callisto. And I hope they do return from their adventures in space now.
Will they come back to the Pacific, or will they go off in different directions? I guess that
could go either way.
I'm sensing from, I mean, this is just a small thing, but I'm sensing from the vast use of hexes, maybe we'll see more hexes being used.
I mean, it's very sci-fi.
Yeah, so that would be very interesting to see, obviously. But I think, as you were saying, I think I'm very attached to the idea of what they do with mechs. I think that's a really fun direction to go, especially if I'd not thought of the idea of them having crews like in North Africa, because that obviously makes a massive amount of sense. Playing around with that and sort of managing a little bit more of that kind of thing, I think would be really, really fun. And
might also try something with orbital deployment.
Oh yeah, because
you have to be on a ship to get there. You've got a support ship in orbit.
Yeah, because a lot of the stuff, it's at least in the sort of original sort of sets of Undaunted, you'd start in one location, you'd have to branch out and stuff with scouts and things like that because of the movement forward in technology. Maybe you have a little bit more freedom of where you deploy and things. That could be very cool.
Well, it might be something along the lines with what to do with the command cards within your current decks, where in this you'll have a command card in it that allows you to deploy from orbit.
Could do. Yeah.
So your command and control will probably be different. But yeah, can't wait to see it.
I am excited.
Time will tell. If you want to see more of Undaunted, myself and young Shabo there have been fighting the good fight, or the very bad dice roll fight in Stalingrad. So, we can't.
Oh, Shay, no audio, buddy.
Oh dear.
Silenced by the interwebs.
That's probably because he was telling lies about how terrible I am.
Sorry, Shay, you've got a Red Army gag order on you.
Probably not much of it left, is what I was saying.
Oh, there we
No,
go.
well, no, there is probably not a huge amount left. You can go and have a look. We've got a playlist for that up on the YouTubes, so you can see us play from the start of the year when fresh-faced we went into Stalingrad, and now 10 months on. Oh Lord, we wish we
Grizzled veterans.
grizzled veterans hanging together. No chocolate left.
Yeah, with all the PTSD.
No smokes left. Terrible.
But we're ramping up to the big finale, which should weigh in around Christmas time.
So nice.
You'll be able to see. You'll be able to see us duking it out for control of Stalingrad as well. And it'll give you a good idea because they all use the same deck building and command and control system, all of the Undaunted games. So it'll give you a good idea of what you may expect. And then they'll subvert your expectations by making a dice roll and write game. Nobody'd see that coming.
Undaunted, roll and write. Yeah.
Right. Enough Undaunted. We're going to take a look at something a bit more down to earth. And Empress Miniatures and Iron Duke have released some new Xhosa. So this is a fascinating period. Anytime I think colonial wars, I always get distracted by either the Boer War or the Zulu War. But there were quite a lot of various conflicts between various European colonial powers in sub-Saharan Africa. And this is a new set of figures to add to the Xhosa from Iron Duke. So Empress sell them. Iron Duke do the heavy lifting with the design and research, I think is probably the best way to put it. So a couple of packs. First up, we have our command pack and casualties, a 2-4, if you so will. So you can see, obviously, we have a proper leader mounted on a scruffy little step pony and being advised by the man there, and then a whole host of poor unfortunates who have been shot up.
This is what will happen if you don't follow my commands.
Pretty much exactly that. But I mean, they're obviously, if you're going to be multi-basing things, so my Zulu are all based on 4s with some singles for removal.
Right.
But depending on the game you're playing, you might want to multi-base, and then occasionally I throw an odd casualty onto those bases of 4 just to break up the uniformity. But at the same time, you can also use them as casualty tokens. And they've all got the Xhosa, the like metal bands that they wore around their midriffs. So that's what you're looking at there, the little Xhosa bands, and then obviously the headbands and feathered headdresses to mark sort of veterans and higher ranking members thereof. There's also a set of veterans, which are, I think, the Afema Xhosa. And they're in the main armed with assegai, multiple assegai. Obviously, supply your own stabby spears. One guy at the end's got a club, little knobbery. Good luck to you, Skipper. And then this, the Xhosa, if you look for images of them, they often would have a shawl or some form of robe or cloth carried over one arm. I don't know whether it was a sign of status, but it makes it for a very distinctive leader model. Then if you just go in and just do like a lot of geometric designs and patterns on his little cloth cover there as well. But otherwise, say a variety of sculpts to get your 8-man pack of veterans, all with those big, beautiful plumage, big feathered headdresses. I haven't seen any with the massive, huge ball of ostrich feathers yet. I'm not saying they're not there,
I bet they'll be coming, or they'll be somewhere deeper in the range.
They may be lurking somewhere else. There's also a skirmish pack, so armed with both assegai, and there's that shawl, and then a variety of additional supplementary weapons. So you can go for some armed with assegai, or some armed with rifles, or a mix thereof, depending on how you feel. I believe a lot of the weaponry was musket, so slow fire, top loading weaponry, but they did have a considerable amount. And as far as this, I mean, the Xhosa wars go, because I started to have a wee nosy around, because like I said, it's one I hadn't paid much attention to. The Zulu war gets all the headlines, big and flash and brash. Xhosa and their various wars, of which these are perfect for mid 1800s, which would be like the 7th or 8th Xhosa war. There were 9 of them. They lasted for about 80 to 100 odd years. So it's a much more expansive series of little wars than the Zulu, very shortened to the point. In fact, when the Zulus were doing their expansion prior to the Zulu war, they obviously displaced a lot of tribes from lands that they were taking, which meant they ended up being pushed into their territory, and the Xhosa ended up fighting a lot there. So you get a lot of warriors fighting on both sides in the conflict as well, both with European settlers and against, depending on where they were being shunted to, because sometimes they were displaced themselves and given land in places where it would force them to be a buffer between other warring tribes, and they had no choice but to fight on the colonial side. It's absolutely fascinating period. And if people want to know more, like I say, even though these are supplied by Empress, Iron Duke do the miniatures themselves. They have a ton, as you can see here, historical notes. So Orange River, the Anglo-Basotho conflict, the weapons and dress. So that's the one that these Xhosa would go into.
Right.
And it gives you things like the order of battles.
Wow,
and also the dispatches. And then there's like a potted history as well on another page. So really in-depth research for some of these conflicts that we don't really hear much about. But it explains how they got to the position they were in, and who was fighting who, where, and when. So I think that's absolutely cracking information.
Really
yeah. If anybody's interested in exploring a different period of one of Victoria's little wars, then definitely worth checking out that.
Litania Wars.
Yeah, the Anglo-Basotho. That's multiple warriors, single warriors, Monosoto, I think. Anyway, let's not get into that, because I don't speak that language particularly well, and I'm sure that's not how any of it's pronounced. But yeah, worth checking out the range from Iron Duke and Empress. It's extensive, and they obviously have the Boer and British colonial troops as well.
They do.
So you can pick and choose.
They've also, Empress have also been building up a very, very nice Russian Civil War sort of revolution-y type thing going on there. So make sure to go and check that out, because there's some really fun stuff in that one, and even more to come. I mean, who would have thought it? Empress make great miniatures.
No, it's madness, absolute madness. It'll never catch on. Yeah. Right. We have a final bit of news.
We do.
Which comes about the Pit Lord.
Yeah. So we talked about Black Site, I think it was last weekend, when we looked at their stuff for Hametsu, which they're doing, which is their awesome sort of demon hunting samurai game. But one of the nice things about what they do as a company is that they tend to work with lots of individuals to create fun and interesting designs and smaller games. One of those designers is a chap called Malev, who has done a really fun little micro game that we looked at a few months ago now, called Doom Ship, which was kind of like your sci-fi Doom Slayer dude walking through a ship, slaying demons and hoping that they can escape through the use of pods. But in this one, Malev has taken the core concept of what Doom Ship was all about and changed it into a little bit of a cosmic fantasy adventure style game that you can dive into. So in Pit Lord, which looks heavily inspired by those kind of like classic films that a lot of people know.
Screams Braun or Frazetta.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, you'll take on the role of the combatant, which is one of those chaps that you can see there. So a big muscular chap with a mighty helmet and an even bigger sword, and you'll have to fight your way through the megalithic megapolis. Because of course, on the planet of Batul, where you have been taken hostage. And the whole sort of theme around the game is that it's a sort of small micro game for one player to dive into and have some fun with, a little bit like Doomship was as well. You will fight through 3 challenges, and then by the end of those challenges, you will then go up against the Pit Lord herself, which is the lady that you can see there on the right-hand side. And if you best the Pit Lord, then you have managed to escape from the planet, and you get to go off on your jollies and have some fun. That's probably not what's going to happen. You're probably going to die. Or you're going to get shoved back into the tunnels to do it all over again, which would probably be the way that I think most people
Sting from June is going to come and scream at you until you die, which is what's happening there. I will kill him.
So the nice thing about the game as well is that, so I say you've got those 3 kind of challenges that you have to go through. They're all randomly generated via a series of 12 different scenarios that you play. That's such a cool one. So you'll get each of these 3 challenges will be randomly generated. So that's where you sort of get the replay value in this, where you'll go through and see if you get easier or more difficult challenges depending on where you go. The starter set, or the start box for the game, I should say, comes with, you get a combatant, you get the Pit Lord, and then you get these 3 individuals, which are some of the foes that you're going to face. What's one of the nice things about the game, though, is that you don't necessarily have to be confined to what miniatures Black Site produce. You could pick up whatever you want, which I think is a great way to go. Cool. Also, just like with Doomship, for Pit Lord, they've created this fun little modular set that you can pick up. So whenever you go into a new scenario that you need to play through, it'll randomly generate the room that you play on. So you could just play this off graph paper if you wanted to, with miniatures on it, or you could just use standees, or you could pick up the little MDF set that they've done there, which comes with things like crates and extra terrain and the traps that you can see in the wall. So you've got the, cutting blades and all sorts of different things like that, which I think is quite nice.
If I'm playing this, I want this.
Well, yeah, I think it really adds to the feel of it, I think, having something like that. And then, of course, you've got the miniatures on it as well. So if you get all the things together, you can create yourself some really interesting scenarios, I think. In addition to that, they've also got Linzara the Cyclops. So she's not called a Cyclops because she's a Cyclops, but because she lost an eye. Ha, ha, ha. And Linzara is in sort of classic fantasy tropes, sort of badass warrior woman who has decided that she doesn't care about leaving the planet of Batul. What she does is she fights through her 3 scenarios, and then she says, "Ha! I will not fight the Pit Lord," and leaves into the tunnels to once again come out the next day and fight even more characters, because she loves just killing things, which I think is very awesome, and a very fun little model there that I think again sort of harks back to classic fantasy films. That a lot of people
comes in that,
it does.
It's never getting opened.
No, sitting on the side.
Are you just getting vibes of your old Star Wars toys? Going, I should never open you ever.
Yeah.
I destroyed my Star Wars toys. They all got open. They all got played to death. But
you had a childhood.
But I just love the look of that.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Well, then here's what you do, Jerry. You buy 2.
Yeah.
One for the shelf and one for you.
But it's a really nice thing to see that clearly Doomship did well, and they thought, you know what, let's take it to the next level and let's do another game sort of set in, using the same mechanics, but sort of playing around with it in a little bit of a different way and getting those fantasy vibes on, but not in a way that would be familiar. Like, it's not a classic dungeon delve in that respect. They've really gone for that kind of cosmic fantasy thing, which I think is quite nice. I should point out that I had the name of the sculptor of the miniature as well. Stephen May. There you go. He's the one who's done the miniature work for
James's
this.
brother.
So, yeah.
I was about to ask, was he any relation?
Mate, well, we'll see if he likes trains, I guess.
Does he sculpt slow?
Maybe. But yes, some very cool miniatures there, and a nice little set, and potentially something that'll be fun as like a little cool gift for maybe sort of the upcoming festive season. I know we shouldn't really talk about it just yet, but something like that would be really fun for a gamer to play around.
Don't worry, the adverts have been on TV.
Yeah, that's true.
In August. Jesus.
Yeah, I went to a garden centre over the weekend that had a tunnel of Christmas already. So there we go. I'll leave you on that.
On that happy note, I think we should take a swish. Okay, we're going to take some 3D printing into the spotlight.
Oh,
And we're going to be looking at Primal Hounds.
yeah.
Doggies go with.
Yes,
Like
lots of dogs. Well, no. So I have recently been looking at making another 40k army because I can't stop myself. And Combat Patrol is a great way of doing that. And so I wanted to do Space Wolves. And one of the things that really annoys me about Space Wolves is that they haven't had the treatment that the likes of the Black Templars have had over the last couple of years, where everything is basically just, well, you just got to use the old stuff. Oh, great. Fantastic. So all the stuff that I should be using, because you put it in the box, all those Primaris, what am I meant to do with them? Oh, just leave them as they are and just paint them grey. That makes them Space Wolves. Well, that sounds like a sodding bad idea to me. And so that's why I looked over at Greytide Studios. Thankfully, after watching Eons of Battle do a fun video about this, actually. But this is their selection of offerings for making Space Wolves look freaking awesome in Warhammer 40,000, and what I'm going to be using for making my Combat Patrol and stuff. I should say, I have all of these things as physical products. I have them over there. I can see them. Oh, look, there's a big pile of shoulder pads and helmets. Ah, wonderful.
There's one of the ones he has over there.
Yes, there we go. Look, that's one of the models that I've made, and I've done it in Jerry Vision, so it's nice and blurry.
That shows motion and speed.
Exactly. He's charging forward.
And sweeping his sword.
So everything that they do... Everything that they do in the Primal Hound set is scaled to use with your Space Marines and all that kind of good stuff. And they have done some very, very cool bits and pieces.
That's a head shape.
Oh, yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
It says there.
Oh, I can't read.
So they've done heads, banners, shoulder pads, shields, all sorts of different weapons. Belts that you can attach to the front of your models as well. They've done capes and cloaks. They've even done a whole series of little tiny icons and things that you can throw into the mix as well to add onto these. And essentially what it does is it takes what you have from your sort of classic Space Wolf kits that you might remember from sort of like Grey Hunters and Blood Claws and that kind of things, and then builds them up and turns them into Primaris level stuff, which I think is quite cool. You've even got horns on your helmets so you can do things wrong.
That sounds like heresy.
It does. Anytime I think about this, I do think it was probably a bit of a culture shock the first time the Primaris Space Wolves met the Space Wolves and went to Fenris, and it's just like, what?
Yeah.
Why is everything so different? Oh God!
We did not get the dress code.
All you do is drink and eat.
Yes.
Sign me up.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, those are ideal if you want to do Lost Company, because they kit bash their armor from whoever they murdered. In the warp while they were lost. So you just throw a couple of chaosy looking helmets in there, which is good. Always got a spectacle helm. Sweet.
And that, interestingly, is the way that I've gone with this. So I'm going to be making 13th Company stuff, which requires me to have some sort of slightly weirder, quirkier stuff going on in terms of their arms and armor. And so I went with this to kind of build all the different sets up as well. I think it's quite cool. The other thing that's really nice is that they've done stuff that works quite well with different sets. So you've got lots of kits that work very well for when you're making your kind of standard intercessors and all that kind of stuff. But then if you want to make Reavers or Hounds of Morkai and all that kind of stuff, they've done heads which just have the sort of rebreathers and stuff on. So you can go down that route and play around with that. Their shoulder pads are awesome. They have got like all the Warcraft vibes. I mean, that one, I'm pointing at the screen.
Yes.
Totally useless. But the one with the like horn over the top as well.
Oh yeah.
Like for the Horde, which I think is very cool. And then they have basic ones as well. I mean, who cares about those, right?
I do.
They're cool.
I like seeing ones with battle damage on them.
Yeah. So they've done some really nice bits and pieces in here for basically making it so that your Space Wolves are as badass as anything. I should point out, this is like one of the campaigns that they run on My Mini Factory, and it says that there's 2 days left on this, but I managed to pick up all the stuff from Only Games as a physical pledge. So you basically just go over and get the pack, and it arrived within 10 days. So if you are tempted to get your hands on, that's the exact site. So I picked up the physical pledge pack. You can see there on the left, but you can do the core set as well if you wanted to. And then I got the Ancient Armor pledge, and then combined that with a sort of cockpit sort of cover thing from another seller on Etsy, and I'm going to use that to make my Invicta tactical warsuit into a little bit more of a badass looking model without the little weird baby carrier thing on the front, I guess.
Fancy. I see that by the time people watch this, if you're watching this live, there's about 5 hours left on this campaign.
Go.
But I assume that's because they've got a few other things thrown in here. So they have something from Daka Store has been added. They have some painting guides added as well.
Yeah.
There's one of them there from El Ministura.
So there are a few bits and pieces, as you say, thrown into the mix. There was a couple of the different options that you saw there as well. It didn't come in the physical thing. So, the like Valkyrie helmet style thing,
Right,
that wasn't in the set that I got.
Thor.
So that's one of the things that you'll be able to
Yeah,
that's one of the things you'll be able to pick up from this campaign as well. So yeah, very cool.
Very
I
cool.
should have point out as well that that also is very nice, I should say. And the quality of the stuff that I got from Only Games was pretty on point. Like I've looked through it. There are a couple of little supports here and there that are still attached, but otherwise it was all cleaned up really, really nicely.
Yeah,
and it's gone together very, very well. And there's very few sort of mistakes or anything on the.
We've got a bunch of them in the studio that they give us to have a look at, and from not these, but just a variety of different models from different ranges from my manufacturer that they do physical products on, and they all look very, very nice.
Yeah.
Are you one? You're a romantic mobbeist. Don't worry about that. I know there's one over there somewhere, but I'm not wearing my glasses and I can't see. It's just great.
I should also say that the folks at Greytide don't just do the Space Force stuff. They've been working on a whole host of bits and pieces as part of their collection. If you go over to their Only Games store, Jerry, and then just click on their little name. Oh, there you go. You can see them all there. So they do various bits and pieces for all the different other legions that you might think of as well. So they've done some really nice bits and pieces in there for kind of Dark Angels and all that kind of that kind of stuff. Yeah, so loads of different pieces for various chapters, depending on which way you wanted to go. Dark Angels or Black Templars or everything else in between. And it's just really nice for those people that want to kind of add a little bit more of a unique edge to their chapter of choice. And since the Space Marines are getting a new book this weekend for you to go and pick up and all that kind of stuff, maybe this is a good option for you to sort of go off in a different direction and make a chapter that looks very different from the one that your friend might have. So,
and they don't do full miniatures. These are just conversion kits for the plastic.
So it's all conversion kits. Yeah. So, and the other thing that I was a little bit worried about, especially with some of the stuff that's a little bit more ostentatious in terms of detail and things, is that I was concerned that it wouldn't fit with the kits, but they've clearly gone to the effort of actually doing a little research and sort of tinkering around with things in terms of what are produced officially, because I played around with some of the larger shoulder pads and cloaks and all sorts of different things, and it all fitted together really, really well. So it's just a case of chopping off bits as you see fit and replacing them with others. Like I just chopped off the hand of one of my my lieutenant or wolf pack leader, and just added the sword on instead, did the new shoulder pad and the head and everything, and away you go. So yeah, very cool stuff, I would say, from them.
Bob,
not sponsored. I should say not sponsored, but I just thought they were cool.
You do you, big man. You do you. Yeah, it's nice stuff there. Primal Hounds from Greytide Studio. So like I say, you've only got 5 hours left for that, but it looks like the actual campaign will be up and about for a little longer anyway. So you can have a nosy with that. Right. We have a couple of Kickstarters to take a look at. And we're going to be starting with Warseer, which is Legends of Signum 2, The Quickening, from Signum Games. Now, this is a fantasy game that myself and Shay has played. So it is a second edition for Legends of Signum. The initial game, and I've done some unboxings in the past years ago for different factions for it. The game itself is a mix of card building and card deck building, city building, and miniature game. Beforehand, it was based on a flat mat with measurements, inches, that sort of thing. They've changed that up to make the gameplay faster, so it's hex based, and they've also tweaked how the deck building and how the city building and resource management side goes now. So they have an interesting concept where every time a card goes into your graveyard, it sort of boosts your income, which theoretically means it's kind of self-leveling then, because as things get killed, including the things you summon in your little characters that your hero brings with. They may cost you some to bring to the board, but then whenever they die, you get some back, which helps keep you fighting fit when you're playing through it. So as you can see here, we played a prototype version of the game, so it's not 100% settled yet. There's some things that still need little tweaks in there. But there's the two factions, the Free City of Velour, who are some sort of communist filth that Shay was playing, and then the Iron Nest, who were going there to free the peoples from the Free City of Velour, who obviously need freed. Desperately need freed from the thumb of tyranny on them. Isn't that right, Shay?
Just going to say it, Jerry. Leshian vibes?
There are in some places. So yeah, the gameplay itself, like I say, you've got a deck building. Certain factions will have a core deck, and then the hero you bring will add 10 more cards to that deck, so they become more sort of integrated in that way. This was what we played with. So this is the Iron Nest at the top, and then the Free City of Velour at the bottom. But there's the potential then to play around by adding new bits and pieces in and tweaking the build-up of your faction. And then thing we didn't really do so much of is the city building side, because it can be quite extravagant, but you can tailor the length of your game. So we played a sort of a medium style game. You can play a longer game by having more cards in the victory deck, and when the victory deck's burnt through, that's the end of your game. So you can set your time limit. Essentially, you can go, right, we'll put half a dozen or so less cards in here to knock a chunk of time off, or maybe we'll play the full feat deck in there so that we can play till the cows come home. And it means then you've got more time to build up your city, and the city then gives bonuses and maybe armor or weaponry or magical abilities. I don't think I got a single building out, Shay.
No, you didn't.
Before you
Shay built the library, and that was it.
Yeah, he went library and just chucked. But then he had a very magic heavy hero that he was all about chucking around. So as you can see, the core set is the mat, all the cards and tokens you need, plus the figures from the two sets. But then there are supplemental bits and pieces you can pick up, like the funky wooden hex-based stacking trays. Yeah, you can get that separately. They nest inside each other so that you can put them away, and then whenever you're playing a game that has tokens and stuff, you can
you see it there.
Deconstruct it and then put your bits and pieces in there. Look, minion tokens. Minion, Shay. Minions. Lots of minions. Anyway.
Terrible.
So that obviously upgrades with the likes of neoprene mats and things like that are available for your play areas, just to give that nice little flush look, bit swish. But on top of that, a whole host of additional figures for both factions, including that. I
adore that
to paint. That's not the final sculpt yet. There'll be something that it will sit on, so that little goblin airship will have a little scenic base type topper that it fits into. Because I was looking at it and going, I might be able to get that on a tree. Just hang the anchor into a couple of the branches and then just pin it in there. But it's a ridiculous bomb throwing thing, and it's like huge. It's a really big, chunky game with extravagant, huge sculpts. I know for the previous iterations, all of the cards for all of the characters and models are available to download for free off Signum Games website, and I believe they're going to do the same with this. So if you already have some of the models, or if you fancy picking some of the weird or wacky models up, then you can always get the cards from it, so you don't have to worry about card decks. I think they did sell them separately anyway. And there's Blazeheart, the Alpha Automaton. I've seen him before. He was in the Fantasy Commander small scale board game that they did on Kickstarter a few years ago. I got my shipping notification for that last week.
Oh, lovely.
So yeah, it's nice to see the world that Signum have built get a bit more of an expansion. Their miniatures are absolutely stonking.
They are gorgeous.
The only thing I was gutted by or annoyed by was I didn't have enough time to paint them, so I just had to go for our playthrough with just like a two-tone color on them, because the miniatures are really nice. There's a massive centaur type fellow with a huge hammer who was in Shay's force. I can't remember what he's called, but he's got a huge pair of bollocks swinging at the back end, and I really wanted to paint those just huge glowing nuts. I tried to focus on them a few times when we were playing, and hopefully that comes through in the Let's Play.
That's one way to do OSL.
Yep. But the style and aesthetic, it's something that's grown over the years. They had a very whimsical Rackham confrontation.
It was very Rackham
adjacent style, because obviously they were heavily influenced by that, and they've come up with something that's just absolutely spanking. I really like the figures that they do for it. So, yes, interesting.
I assume they're gonna bring in. I assume the other factions will find a way into this at some point. Then with 2. Yeah,
I don't know how quick after this that the plan is for the miniatures on the site already, because they have things like the I'm trying to remember the name of them. The unicorn is the nature-based wood elves, and then there's the spider elves, the Akira, they are who are deeply disturbing. Obviously, they exist already, and then there's a very Japanese fox-based faction as well. They've got a lot more.
Kitsune styles. Yeah,
I imagine, like before, those cards will be available to pick up in a pack or just to download from the website. Because a lot of this, it's not so much of a change from the first edition. The movement changes, and then the mechanics for the fighting change, because before it was a little mini combat deck where you would draw cards, and the card would have like so many hits and so many crits and stuff. So you could, if you were good at card counting, you could work your way through that deck and know what was coming. They've replaced that with a system of gold, silver, and bronze dice, which have different levels of hits and misses on them, and then you can step up and step down dice depending on different abilities. So
that's a cool system.
So I think a lot of the existing models, it won't take much to update their cards, because they don't have walls of text on the cards. The rules are in English, and that handles all the keywords and symbols. So if a lot of it is symbol based, it might be that they're able to do it in a relatively short amount of time.
Very cool.
She also has an alternate head. I put the head on with the helmet like in her card because I think it looks nicer. It's got the big flying wings, bit Valkyrie. But there's a few like that. There's a zealot with a spiky face mask, which you can just leave off altogether. So the resin models are really top notch. And she is just a delight to blend to the healing hand until Shay decided to start hitting her with a hammer, because Free City of Valor hate women. They're just the worst people, and they need the Iron Nest to come in there and just do them.
We were equal opportunists, all right?
It didn't matter who you were killing. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah. We don't discriminate.
So you're an equal opportunity offender.
Exactly, yeah.
So obviously you can have a look through it. You can download the rules, and there's even a demo on Tabletopia, and like I say, our videos out there as well. So plenty in there, plenty of expansions. They've already been funded. So if you're interested in doing something a little bit wacky, it's an interesting little board game. I'd say miniature skirmish game on a hex map. It's it's old school almost. Everything old is new again. That's what they tell me. So yeah, there are 23 days left on that if you fancy backing the Legends of Signum.
Nice.
Now, going away from the weird fantasy and into the more relaxing, sedate fantasy with Cubicle 7.
Yeah.
And they have a Kickstarter as well.
So this is a new Kickstarter from Cubicle 7 for their 5th edition collection, which they call Vault 5e. And this tends to be books. They've done a journey one before this, Uncharted Journeys, which is all about sort of traveling throughout your fantasy lands and the encounters that you find yourself having along the way. So it's a nice little supplement to what already exists for D&D and also for other games as well, if you just wanted to do a little bit of tweaking to kind of help you out in your campaigns, be you a player or a games master. Wow. This book, A Life Well Lived, does something similar, but it helps you kind of flesh out your characters and make them feel more real life, I guess you'd say. So with this book, you get to do effectively all the things that your characters would be doing when they're not off killing things in dungeons. So you get what's called their new life pass system, which allows you to plot out what they did in their life before they took on the life of an adventurer. This is by no means a new thing in role-playing games. Loads of role-playing games have had this previous to this. I know Cyberpunk is very famous for having this kind of thing, as well as Traveller had a system like this as well. But this one's been designed.
Immense.
What was that, sorry?
Traveller system was
Yes.
immense.
Oh my god, my
generating-
Traveller characters, they lost eyes, hands,
Then you
sometimes
get to
their
the end, you
lives.
get drummed out of the military, and you go, "Oh, I've got to start again."
No, I started looking at you guys playing the Doomed.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
there's one that actually feels you might actually die before you get to play.
Yeah, it's very, very, very brutal in some cases. Thankfully, this one's a little
Light
bit
naming
more
included.
sedate. Yeah. So with this life path system, you'll learn what your character's life was like before they became an adventurer. So you might look at who their family members are, who their enemies are, who their friends are, where they came from, what jobs they did, and all that kind of stuff. And it's all effectively fuel for the GM, the DM to then make your life a misery, which tends to be the case with these kind of things. Because you can never have a nice backstory most of the time. The DM will always do something to make it terrible. And
Tragedy builds character.
exactly.
Not necessarily. What if you just came from a really nice home?
Yeah, you might just be a nice farm boy who went off on an adventure and everything was fine, but who knows?
No.
You'll also be able to dive into kind of adventures that happen to your characters away from the dungeons in the midst of your campaigns. So they've got a whole new set of downtime activities that you can dive into. So if you want to, maybe your character has a job, or maybe maybe they're a guard, or they run a tavern or something like that. Maybe they go off and do something else. Maybe they do some learning in a school or something. They've really delved into sort of expanding that for your D&D games and obviously beyond, to kind of really add some more flavor to your characters as you go through. It's something that I think a lot of people really like about it was originally Adventures in Middle Earth, and then obviously is now with the One Ring. There's lots of things built into those games where you can sort of find out what happened between your adventures. Because I really like the emphasis that Cubicle 7 have put on this idea that you don't just have campaigns that just link one game into the next kind of thing. So you're not constantly on an adventure. Sometimes you might have a year off where you don't go killing goblins and you go back to your city and you run your business and all that kind of stuff.
Check in on the wife and kids.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's a good way of doing things. In addition to that, they've also added in campcraft activities. So when you sit down to do your camp for the night, you can delve into all sorts of things like song singing and sort of brewing stuff and herbalism and all that kind of thing. There's patrons. So this is something that they've done in other games like Imperium Maledictum, where they had a patron system. So these are characters that are kind of like helping you through your life in one way or another, for good or ill. And they've built that into the 5th edition rules, what you're doing here. And they also have a whole set of tables and sort of things you can dive into to find out what happens to your character after they've finished adventuring. So say you actually get to retire. There's a whole section of what happens to your characters after the fact in there as well.
Yeah.
I think it's quite
I really like this. They did say it's going to be supplemental to the C7020 system as well.
Yes.
So it won't just be, even though it's based for 5e, but realistically with something like this, it works for any, I'm going to say any fantasy, because I don't know exactly what the ins and outs of it is, but any fantasy RPG, regardless of system, it's a good way of helping generate stuff. And I did a little article on the site, and in that I pointed out, if you're a brand new GM and party, the hardest part is coming up with a character, because the alternative is you go, I'm just going to be a stat stick. I'm going to play a barbarian with 16 in strength and 16 in constitution, and all you are is a set of numbers.
Of muscles. Yeah.
And this adds so much more, helps both craft the character and give inspiration, and also craft story hooks for the GM. Because once he knows that you're a farm boy looking for adventure from a really nice village, then at some point that village is getting warlocked. Oh my god! Many warlocks. You won't
just a light dusting of necromancer.
And the next time you come home, you discover they've all been warlocked to death, and then that gives you a new villain to go looking for. Or alternatively, the patron system as well. The person who's picking you up and chucking you into holes in the ground to murder hobo your way through. He may turn a wrong, or maybe you could retire one of your characters and they could become a patron for a new group later on. So I think
What's really nice about this book as well, obviously, because you say it's got that link into the C7020 style of things as well, is that they created a game called Broken Weave, which was on Kickstarter last year, I want to say, and that's coming to fruition very, very soon. Should be getting the book. There's already been releases of a whole bunch of PDF stuff for that as well, which has been very nice to read through.
Yeah.
But that game is very much one about exploration and adventure and diving deep into your characters, and this feels like a perfect supplement to that as well.
Especially where because the world is crumbling in that one, and so the focus on your little enclave of people wherever they happen to be in the world, and you may not be able to reach out and touch any other communities because things keep breaking down. So that being able to have a real fix into that area with something like this, and then start sort of adding layers of humanity to the various characters around you, was a lot of fun. I mean, one of my favorite games was Pendragon, and it had a very antecedent system. The idea would be you would want to leave something behind for your progeny and your progeny's progeny, and so on and so forth. So you would start a family, you'd have kids, you'd have to make sure that you didn't have your lands taken off you because you were terrible or whatever, or maybe get extra ones granted, and then down the line you would retire your character and then pick up and play their children and children's children and so on. So you would have generational gaming like that, and it was sort of baked into the whole idea of the lineage became much more important. And this opens up a lot of other games that don't really have that. A lot of people look at, especially D&D, it's how quickly can I get to level 20 and punch Tiamat or God in the face. But in reality, very few people ever stick around that long.
Yeah.
They get killed up, or the party breaks down and they start a new party or a new group or whatever it happens to be. But having it where you can go, well, that character then maybe goes off and retires, or goes off and works the farm for a few years, and then some young scrappy adventurer goes, I heard you used to be a bit of a swordsman. Can you help me? My family were kidnapped by kobolds, and pulled back in only 3 days from retirement.
Back for one last ride.
that type of thing. So
yeah, but you could also have it that depending on how deep you go, depending on how much training you give to that next generation, gives you like maybe a boost to where you're starting at. So if you're an absentee parent, your kid's not getting trained so much.
Yeah.
Too much adventuring for yourself, not enough time spent on your kids.
There's lots of ways to do it. So yeah, it's nice to see, and I think as a supplemental book to run alongside the encounters, the Uncharted Journeys.
Uncharted Journeys.
Yeah. I think that's great, because then you've got what happens between your adventures and then what happens when you're traveling to the adventure and beyond. They're just nice ways to change up. Not every game has to start and end and go straight to the murder pit.
Yes.
You can have so much more if you just don't take your.
You can actually role play
and just head off into the wilderness. So yeah, nice to see. Funded as we expected. Cubicle 7, they do good work. Yes. 18 days left. So if you fancy having a new life, making sure it's a well-lived one, then you've got plenty of time for that. And that wraps us up for another week. Well done, us.
Yay.
Yay.
Pat yourself in the back.
Team.
Drink. We shall be back on Sunday for the XLBS. If you're not already a cultist, come and join us over on tabletop.com, and you get a 30-day backstage trial. Kick around, see what's happening, see what we're talking about. Who knows? We certainly don't. Don't forget, if you want a chance to win one of the 3 Sarissa Precision vouchers, you need to comment on this video on tabletop.com, not the YouTubes, because you need to link your project. So link us your projects. Linky.
Do as Papa Jerry says.
And on that note, we'll see you next week. Have a great week of gaming. Bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.